You may have heard your sensei or your dojo leader in the past say that you can learn everything you need to know about Kendo from the kata. And you wouldn't be remiss for being somewhat confused by them saying that. Because after all, there are distinct differences that are not applicable. So, for example, in kata, we do kiken tai noichi and bringing our left foot up, whereas in Shinai Kendo, we are doing fumikomi with our right foot, and the strike is happening with the right foot. So it is easy to be somewhat confused by what is meant by you can learn everything you need to know about Kendo from kata. So let's look at this. Let's take a slightly deeper dive into this and try to understand what exactly is meant by that. First of all, it's not really so much about the waza because, again, the kata that we do, the waza that we do in the kata are often dissimilar to the waza that we do with Shinai Kendo. So again, we get back to the question, well, what is it we are learning? We are learning very, very important subtle nuances when it comes to the actual duel in the Shinai Kendo. So let's look at this. First of all, there is distance, there is ma'ai, and there is a slowed down sequence of movements that enable us to understand what is the right cutting distance for us. What is the effective cutting distance? Then there is this beautiful concept of aiki, which is the harmonization of the movement between ourselves and uchirachi or shidachi, whomever the other role is. Aiki, in terms of Kendo, as I mentioned, is the harmonization of the movement. But, predating the modern use of the term Aiki, we look at it as being synonymous with Kiai. Kiai and Aiki are interchangeable. So first of all, we understand that Kiai is not a shout. Kakagoi, and in fact Hasei, is shout. Kiai is the gathering, the harnessing and the focusing of our energy into the present moment, into what we're actually doing. So this is Kiai, and Aiki is this idea of gathering our energy together. But in terms of kata, we see Aiki as a way of harmonizing the movement. Once we have those two things in mind, distance and Aiki, we then start looking at N, the connection between us, between our kata partner and ourselves. And we establish that connection by connecting the bokuto at what is ostensibly Shokojin no Ma, where the kensen, the tips of the bokuto are essentially just connected. When we have that connection, that is the most important connection to have, because through that connection we can feel when uchidachi is intending to move and when they are going to move. And that is vital information that we use to be able to time our waza, to time the response of our waza to the cut that they are performing on us. And when we have that timing, the movement in the kata suddenly makes a lot more sense. There is rationale, as I mentioned in the previous video. We move because something has happened, and we feel that through the connection. And that connection is that pressure through the connection is applied through seme. Now we look at the duel in Shinai Kendo, and then we look at it through the lens of kata, and we understand about distance more clearly. We understand about aiki. We understand about the harmony of the movement between us and our opponent. We understand about connection and how that connection is so important to be able to get and gather sensory information about what our opponent is doing. And then with that sensory information, we are then able to apply much better timing to our waza, which enables us to create the most beautiful natural strike that is perfect for that situation. So essentially, this is the role that kata plays in our kendo. We use it as a slowed down and much more considered process through which we get to understand the finer details of our Shinai Kendo. Naturalness is the key. Naturalness is what we are looking for, because then our Kendo makes sense.